Hello, and welcome to today's SAP Business One video on item management. Today I'm going to give you a high-level overview of how items are tracked within the system. I'll also go over a little bit about how warehousing works within the system, and as well as MRP and production, as well as inventory reports. So first I'm going to pull up my item master data where all items are tracked. So when I pull up my item master data here, the item master data populates in find mode. And I'm just going to pull up an item that I have already in my system. So I'm going to type in the beginning of an item code here. Excuse me, I was in the wrong field. And then I'm going to pull this item here. And you can see in the header information, we have our item code. We have our description. If it's assigned to an item group or unit measure group, you can certainly do that. You can assign it to a price list, and you can define the unit price here, as well as if there's a barcode associated. Over here to the right, you can see that it's checked for inventory item, which means that it's stored in inventory. It's checked for sales item, which I can sell this item, and it's checked for purchase item, which means I can buy this item as well. Below, you can add if it's tax liable, some shipping and manufacturing information, as well as if the item is managed by item or serial numbers. In the purchasing data, you can define a preferred vendor. If it has a catalog number, you can certainly add that. Or if it has multiple catalog numbers, I can pull up a business partner catalog number with the specific vendor codes, and I can do it by BP as well. If I want to see a purchasing analysis report for this item, I can click on the graph here, and it shows me by vendor the purchasing analysis report here and graphical information. On the sales data tab, very similar to the purchasing, I can define my sales unit of measure and its dimensions here. And then on the inventory tab, I can define if it's a specific GL account. And you can see below, it shows all my warehouses in the system, its item cost, its in stock, committed, ordered, and available to use. I can define minimum, maximum, and required inventory levels, as well as I can do availability to promise, so I can view what I have in stored to promise to customers or if I need to buy from a vendor. In my planning data tab, this is where you define your material planning. Do you buy or make the product? If you have an order interval, maybe I order it every 3 weeks or once every 2 months, I can add that there. I order it in multiples of two. Maybe my vendor has a minimum order quantity, and I can define lead times as well. From a production standpoint, you can define if the item is issued backflush or manual and its standard cost. You have the ability as a user to find 64 different properties for segmenting purposes. Maybe this is a good tool for reporting, just that defines more specific information. You can add remarks as well as specific item picture, and finally any attachments associated for this item. So that's a little bit about the item master data. So let's get a little bit into warehouses. So I'm going to click on my warehouses here, and I'm going to pull up a warehouse that we have in our system. And this is where the warehouse information takes place. You can define its address information if it's assigned to a different branch. Maybe you run multiple branches for your company, if it's taxable, and if there's bins assigned to it. You can assign bin locations within Business One. And here's the specific bin location information. And how Business One tracks its bins is based off of aisle, shelf, level, and in warehouse here on the left. It's also, since Business One is a very GAAP compliant for auditing purposes, tracks by GL accounts. So you can assign GL accounts here, so it shows the tracking information when you have inventory movements throughout any type of transaction. And if you want to view the GL account, you can click on the drill into arrow and it'll take you to that GL account in the chart of accounts. Now let's get into a little bit of reporting within Business One. There are many inventory reports. You can see here on the right that we have all the inventory reports associated with inventory. So a popular one is our last prices report. So I can see all the last prices defined by specific BP code or item, and I can drill into that information and populate that. I can view my open items list here and define my selection criteria to view all open items in the system. I have the ability to do an inventory audit report. So if I go into reports down here in Business One and inventory, I can look for my inventory audit report here. I can define based off a date and warehouses, and I can display it by items. And when I click OK, the inventory audit report populates. And first you can see the item and its description and the total quantity, but if I wanted to expand that information, I certainly can click expand and I can see all the transactions and the movements posted. So if I want to see the specific document, I can pull into the invoice here and see the invoice, as well as I can see if I right click on this invoice, I can view the journal entry, and this is how it's tracked through GL accounts. I certainly can export this to Excel. I can export it to Word, PDF, email it, print it, or we can have built-in crystal reports where we define a template and we can populate the specific crystal report. So I'm going to go back into my inventory audit report, click the preview button, and what it's doing is it's gathering this information and tying it into our custom template that we've created and we've configured. And you can see here, here's a nice clean crystal report that I can print and send out to customers, vendors, internal for my company. And it's good for accounting purposes too when your company does get audited. And you can see that I have my company logo, my company, and how clean it is in the system. So that's a little overview of item management within SAP Business One. Thank you for listening to this video.